Nicholas.
Hello, Sergeant.
How's the hand?
Still a bit stiff.
It can get awfully hairy out there. I'm surprised you weren't snapped up sooner for a nice desk job. That's what I did.
I prefer to think my office is out on the street.
Indeed you do. Your arrest record is 400% higher than any other officer, which is why it's high time that such skills were put to better use. We're making you sergeant.
I see.
In Sanford, Gloucestershire.
In where, sorry?
In Sanford, Gloucestershire.
That's in the country.
Yes! Lovely.
Isn't there a sergeant's position here in London?
No.
Can I remain here as a PC?
No.
Do I have any choice in this?
No.
Sergeant, I kind of like it here.
Well, you've always wanted to transfer to the country.
In 20 years or so, yes.
Well done you.
Hang on. I don't remember telling you that.
Yes, you did. You said, I'd love to settle down in the country sometime, Janine.
I'd like to talk to the inspector.
You can speak to the inspector, but I can promise you he will tell you exactly the same thing as I have.
Hello, Nicholas. How's the hand?
It's still a bit stiff.
And how are things at home?
I'm sorry, sir?
How's Janine?
We're no longer together, sir.
Right, well, then where are you living?
He's staying in the section house, sir.
With the recruits?
Yes, he's living out of cardboard boxes.
Well, then you're packed already. Nicholas, we're offering you a smashing position with a delightful cottage and a lovely little place that I think has won Village of the Year I don't know how many times. It'll be good for you.
I don't really know what to say.
Yes?
Yes, thank you.
No, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to...
You want to take this higher?
Yes, I do.
You want me to bother the Chief Inspector with this?
Yes.
You want me to get the Chief Inspector to come all the way down here?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Kenneth?
Hello, Nicholas. How's the hand?
Still a bit stiff.
Chief Inspector.
Keep your seat. Now, I know what you're going to say, but the fact is, you've been making us all look bad.
I'm sorry, sir?
Of course, we all appreciate your efforts, but you've been rather letting the side down.
It's all about being a team player, Nicholas.
You can't be the Sheriff of London.
If we let you carry on running around town, you'll continue to be exceptional, and we can't have that. You'll put us all out of a job.
With respect, sir, you can't just make people disappear.
Yes, I can. I'm the Chief Inspector.
Well, however you spin this, there's one thing you haven't taken into account. And that's what the team is going to make of this.
Welcome, everyone, to Director Showcase. I'm your host, as always, Alex Elmer. To my right is one of my three main co-hosts, the great Jacob Cunningham.
Sup, gentlemen? How we doing?
Great, as always. Back to be with you guys this month, and below him, it is Alex Holmes as well.
Good morning, everyone. Happy to be here.
And this month's special guest he's been on the channel multiple times on Unfiltered, but this is his first time on Director Showcase. It is Chris from Movies and Munchees.
Hey, how are you?
Good. You know, last month we had horror and coffee. Now we have movies and munchies. I mean, we just love...
Both things I'm a fan of. And glad to have you back on the show, Holmes, after missing last week.
Yeah. I'm sorry about that. Just scheduling, just couldn't find the time, but I'm happy to be here this week. Yeah, I definitely missed it.
And today, guys, we have a great show to bring to you all. Edgar Wright is our director for this month. Obviously, one of the most prolific directors working today, chosen by our special guest, Chris from Movies and Munchies. So, Chris, can you tell everyone at home, why did you choose Edgar Wright?
Well, he is my favorite working director. So that was, I have liked him since I discovered him in the very, very early 2000s and with a little show that he was doing, and have just been a massive fan ever since. And so now anytime that anything comes out with his name on it, I'm there.
For sure. Chris was an OG Edgar Wright fan. Now we'll get to Jacob now, because I know, Jacob, you consider yourself to be the biggest Edgar Wright fan in the world. You might have some competition today on this podcast, but I think I included, as well as people at home, would be fascinated to hear about your experiences with Edgar Wright over time.
I mean, age limits me from being able to call myself an OG Edgar Wright fan, but I've been there about as early as I could have been. And yeah, he is not only one of my favorite directors, but a director who really shaped a lot of my tastes and who I am, to the point where I'd even say that like I wouldn't be here as a film lover if it weren't for Edgar Wright. He came to me first. I watched Hot Fuzz pretty much right after it came out at home. A way too young me watched Hot Fuzz, and it blew my tiny mind. And it was a time before I even really knew what good movies were, but it just compelled me for so many different reasons, and it was something that I kept coming back to. And like, I know maybe spoilers for our picks, but I feel like it is kind of relevant in talking about Edgar Wright. But Hot Fuzz is my favorite movie of all time. I've seen it probably 100 times. So Edgar Wright will always be such a special filmmaker to me. And even before I got seriously into film, Hot Fuzz, Shaun of the Dead, Scott Pilgrim, those were movies I would watch like every week, just on rotation. And what he does, it got me interested in filmmaking. And I think a lot of young people could say that, you could say they're sort of populist and entertaining and genre stuff and not super serious, but like they're doing such interesting stuff with filmmaking. And I think he's been a very influential filmmaker in his still kind of young career.
And Holmes.
Well, honestly, I have you to thank, Helmer, I think, for getting me into Edgar Wright. And I can't say I'm like an OG or anything, or even going back to Hot Fuzz, but I know that you were the one who told me to watch I don't remember, maybe we watched Hot Fuzz.
It was definitely
together.
Hot Fuzz, yeah.
Yeah, I know, yeah. You were a big fan of that movie, and that made me watch it, and you were right, it was pretty damn good. And I watched, I think after that, my other experience with him that I thought was kind of funny is that when Baby Driver came out, I was really excited to see that. And we went to the theater, but I wasn't 17 yet, so they didn't let us into the movie because it was R-rated. So then we had to watch Spider-Man Homecoming instead, and just so sad. But then I watched it when it came out on streaming, and it was amazing. But I wish I got to see it in theaters. But yeah, I really love just his style. It's so fun to watch. No one has a style like that. It's just like super high paced and frenetic, and you think you're gonna like miss something, and it's gonna be too overwhelming. But it's not. He keeps it so precise, So I really enjoy watching his movies for sure. Yeah.
So far, folks, age is limiting our love for Edgar Wright for all three of us, it seems. So,
hey, I've seen Spaced. Come on.
Except for Chris.
And hey, don't let the gray hair fool you. It's not like I'm that old.
And I can go now. I like Jacob and Holmes, Hot Fuzz was my first exposure to Edgar Wright. I watched it like Jacob way too young. And I remember when I watched it, I was sick out of my mind. Like I could barely even talk. I could barely like swallow. And even in that moment, when I watched Hot Fuzz, it was just like Jacob mentioned, just an experience in its own that kind of inspired me for years to come. When I was younger and I used to make movies, I made a bunch of stuff that was just like Hot Fuzz, because the edit, even like I didn't even know what like film editing was, but even then I was like, holy shit, the way this movie is edited is like, it's crazy. It's so inspiring. And so that was my first exposure. And then obviously I saw the rest of his stuff later on. And so I feel like a lot of my childhood was shaped by Edgar Wright. And then kind of moving on to the present, he still does a lot of stuff, obviously different from the Cornetto trilogy, but work that continues to inspire. Also, he's also a film lover, which I really appreciate. The fact that he talks a lot about older movies, he watches a ton of movies, he does a lot with Criterion. And so I think he's just a person overall whose love for the craft is reflected in the movies he makes, which I think is, I just think it makes him even more of a kind of great director. I'm thankful that Chris was able to choose Edgar Wright for today's episode. It should be a really fun one, guys. And if you guys don't know how Director Showcase works, what we're going to do, we're going to go through a bunch of subcategories, which we're going to talk about the best, some of the worst of Edgar Wright's, not that, don't worry, there's not much of the worst. But yeah, the best and kind of the worst of Edgar Wright's filmography within a plethora of different subcategories, which are talking about kind of everything from best supporting performance, best lead performance, best character, best cast, all of that. So make sure to stay around for all of that and let us know in the live chat what your picks would be for certain categories. And make sure if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel if you are new as well for more monthly Director Showcase like episodes like this and other fun cinema-related content. As we head on to our first subcategory, we're going to go over to Best Wright Cast.
Oh, God. It's too hard. I don't like this question.
It's a tough one. Chris, I'm going to put you on the spot. You're a guest of honor.
Oh,
What's the best
so
Wright cast?
dude, this sucked. Okay.
Yeah, this was the worst one. Honestly, I still don't have an answer.
Well, I'm gonna cheat because I'm gonna put 2 in there, and I'm still not totally happy with either of the answers because I'm not sure that I really can land on it. But Scott Pilgrim is first, and then the runner-up, Spaced. Now, I mean, totally different cast there. I mean, yeah, Scott Pilgrim, you've got like an American and Canadian audience, and I mean, people just keep coming out of the woodwork. You know, the little guest stars and the cameos that you have in there. Spaced started it, and you see all of these characters make their way into at least one Edgar Wright film, if not multiple, and later on. And that's what I mean, yeah, okay. Whatever. Yeah, no, this was terrible. I hate this category. Thank you for choosing that.
Awful question. Hate you, Holmes.
Holmes, okay, Holmes. I hope you.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go to you next.
It's also a dilemma for me. I think that's a good. Scott Pilgrim is a good, definitely one I was thinking about as well. Like it's got a lot of good. I feel like it has so many good small roles, but they fill it out so well. You know, I just love it when they have huge actors in these small roles and they just really like I don't know, make it pop a little bit. Like Chris Evans was great in that. Like before he was huge, you know, before he's Captain America. Then I think I'm gonna go with Hot Fuzz though. I mean, just for assembling the best of the British, you know.
Mhm.
It's always funny that there's always like in American movies, all these British actors, and you didn't even know were British because they were doing American accents, you know. But here they get to be British, and I mean, just seeing that opening scene that you showed, you know, the 3 inspectors, right? They're not in the rest of it, but like it's just, I don't know, it's so incredible that he was able to assemble such a talented cast. It's almost like Wes Anderson. I feel like his ability to get the best of the best, and I think people just enjoy working in his movies. You know, they seem like they would be fun to shoot. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Hot Fuzz.
I can piggyback off of that because I also shocker picked Hot Fuzz. I have a phrase that I use. I don't know if I've used it with some of you, but we use it. It's called Dion Waiters, which means it's a character who appears in very little of a movie but steals the entire movie.
Everyone in that movie is a
Hot Fuzz
Dion
has
Waiters.
like 20 Dion Waiters. Like Holmes mentioned, there's a ton of like the best of the British. But not just that, a lot of these actors are in other Edgar Wright movies, but a lot of them kind of aren't together. But you're kind of getting a bunch of actors who you've seen a lot before, you just don't know the name of. And when they show up and what they do, it's so small, the way they say certain lines, the way they kind of act, but at the same time, it's kind of hilarious nonetheless. Like obviously you have Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, Paddy Constantine, Rafe Spall, Martin Freeman, who Holmes mentioned is barely even in the movie, Bill Nye, Jim Broadbent. This is my favorite Jim Broadbent performance. And then you just have really small actors. I'm not even going to like Rory McCann and David Bradley, obviously, who are Game of Thrones alum, who are in the movie. And then obviously Olivia Colman, future Oscar winner, one of the best actresses working today, who's in this movie. I remember when I saw The Favorite for the first time, I'm like, holy shit, that's what's her face from Hot Fuzz. Like,
yeah, it was so
10 years
trippy
later.
not knowing who Coleman was
Yeah, exactly.
through Hot Fuzz,
Yeah.
and then seeing her come to prominence and then being like, wait, is that Doris Thatcher from Hot Fuzz? What?
and then I have to mention him, Timothy Dalton, as well in Hot Fuzz. Holmes mentioned like great actors in small roles. Timothy Dalton was literally James Bond, and then you make him like a pervy supermarket owner, and it's just it's so good. And the casting of Hot Fuzz is just it's on point. And
Greatest fun runner in cinema.
it might be it's one of my favorite casts ever. Jacob.
All right. Well, I was choosing between 2 as well, and I'm glad you shouted out Scott Pilgrim because very, very close to choosing that answer. Such a great, different cast for Wright, but so many people in that film who were either on the verge of becoming stars or who would become stars later, and yeah, that cast is such a joy. But it's Hot Fuzz. I'm going with Hot Fuzz. I think you guys genuinely covered it really well. Best of the British, and not just like Edgar Wright's revolving door of friends from space and stuff like that, but he brings in so many like veterans. Like he's got clearly a respect for like this industry, and I mean, you guys brought them all up, like David Bradley and stuff, and lots of great cameos too. You know, the Kate Blanchett moment under the mask.
Stephen Merchant. I forgot to mention.
Dude,
yes,
Stephen
Peter
Merchant
Ian
is
Staker.
Peter Ian Staker. Piss Taker.
Taker,
Come on. But Adam Buxton, who gets like maybe one of the gnarliest deaths I've ever seen on film. Like when that killer dropped in his head, that shit traumatized me as a kid. That haunted me for years until I watched the film again later and was like, oh no, this is funny. Yeah, just incredible cast. Everybody comes in shooting perfect games. Like Ray Spall and Patty Considine as the Andes, one of my favorite cinematic duos ever. Yeah, I can't go past Hot Fuzz. The list is endless. Also, Edgar Wright's parents. One of Edgar Wright and one of Simon Pegg's parents cameo as like the judges of the Village of the Year contest, which is a really sweet nod from them too.
Awesome.
I remember.
Also, Edgar Wright's in there somewhere as like a supermarket trolley boy.
Oh, he's also Santa, I think.
That's
Peter Jackson.
Peter Jackson.
Oh, that's Peter Jackson. Okay. Oh.
And it's like I think of new cameos every second. Like Paul Freeman plays the fuck off grasshopper, the priest. Paul Freeman.
I'm agnostic. I think I have a cream for that.
Jones week, so he was Balak in Raiders of the Lost Ark. And I remember when I was a kid, when I first watched it, I was obsessed with the cast so much that I tried to memorize each of the characters' names. And every time I watched it, I tried to kind of increase in my kind of knowledge of it. So yeah, that's my. So Chris, the Lone Wolf. Picking Scott Pilgrim, but a respectable.
No, that is a perfect pick, and I very nearly picked it myself.
And we're gonna head on now to Best Wright Soundtrack. We have had score before, but now we're gonna do soundtrack because I think we can all agree Edgar Wright soundtracks are sublime. I can go first with my pick. Actually, no, I'm gonna save myself because mine is unique. Anybody doesn't have a unique answer, and I
don't think mine is unique.
Okay, Holmes.
I mean, Baby Driver. I don't know. Okay. I mean, it's the one where he picked the music first, right, and like choreographed the scenes to the music. Like, how can you pick something else? Well, I don't know. We'll see. I'm just kidding. There are a lot of other options, but I mean, I bought the soundtrack on vinyl. You know, it's just like it's so tied to the choreography, right, of the movie and the chase scenes, the action scenes, and it just flows so well. And I feel like also they're not like super well-known picks necessarily. They're not like the obvious, throwback soundtracks. They're also like a little bit more niche songs, and I feel like that really shows like Edgar Wright has great music knowledge as well as film knowledge. And there's just a lot of different classic songs in here that just like, I don't know, there's so many different ones as well. It's not just the same type of music, and it just makes the movie a joy to watch, and it's also just as fun to listen to on its own aside from the movie. So yeah, definitely gonna be Baby Driver for me. Yeah, and it's also tied into the plot of the movie, so there's that.
Yeah, Edgar's. I think he always does these big like Spotify playlists every year, highlighting his favorite songs of the year. He's literally like if just one of us nerds actually made it to the big time and is able to palm off all his useless years of film knowledge onto people and people actually listening to him, But yeah, it does so much for appreciation of this culture. But I'm going to echo you and go Baby Driver. Do want to shout out Shaun of the Dead for being sort of one of the movies to do a great Queen song action set piece before every movie was doing it.
Can you listen to that Queen song and not think of Sean?
No,
like
Sean
I can't.
Owns it now.
Every time I hear it, I just yeah. That's it. It's ruined me in a great way.
But yeah, Baby Driver is, I think one of the commenters said one of the greatest soundtracks of all time, and I would agree. I was going absolutely gaga over it when it came out. I think for maybe like a month after it came out, every time I would get in my car, I'd put on the sunglasses and I'd fire up Bell Bottoms and let it take me away. What an absolute banger. And as you said, how integral it is to the plot, to the film, the way it's so intricately choreographed, the way there are moments, especially in the opening scene, I think the Harlem Shuffle, he hides little like song lyrics in the production design and stuff. Like it's just genius level shit. And he's always been a great user of soundtrack, and he doesn't often rely on scores and stuff. But Baby Driver is just that coming fully to fruition, and I can relate to it as someone who also just cannot commute at all without the perfect song playing.
Yeah, definitely. it's kind of a problem sometimes. I feel like I'm gonna get
Yeah,
next
like-
one of these
perfect
days.
song, yeah.
Like the scene where he steals a car and he has to adjust the radio
Yes,
station before he can find
yes.
Radar Love by Pearl Earring. Like,
Chris?
Okay, so Baby Driver was my runner-up because of everything
Oh,
you guys said.
oh.
ooh,
Yeah, I know,
we got a
I
couple
know.
unique picks, maybe.
Yeah, doing different. I'm going Scott Pilgrim again for this one
Wow.
because
Huh,
it's
no, great
just the music it's different. You know, I mean, you have a little bit of this punk and just all of these little influences, and I mean the like Baby Driver, but in a completely different way. The narrative is surrounding music, and just with the bands and the way that incorporates. I'm not sure I know. Like, I know more of the songs in Baby Driver, or am familiar with them, versus, you know, any of those that were in Scott, because some of those are just written for that. But yeah, that's my pick.
I still count as Sex Bob Bomb rule. Listen to a lot of them as a kid.
We are Sex Bomb.
We are crashing the boys. Is that girl a boy too? Yes.
So my pick has not been stated yet, and I don't think my argument is going to be as well constructed as your guys for your movies.
I know
'cause
what
I
it
just
might
like
be.
the soundtrack because it's really good music. I went with Last Night in Soho as mine.
Yep.
Which
Ooh.
is kind of 50s, 60s music. This is actually one of my favorite soundtracks ever, which makes sense because one of my other favorite soundtracks is also a recent movie, which is also very underappreciated in my opinion. Bad Times at Del Royale, which also has like
I
a
love that
banger of a
movie so much.
soundtrack.
So good.
And from the moment, from the moment that this movie started, so sorry, I have the album kind of pulled up on my phone now, but they start with A World Without Love, right? And so from the first moment, I'm like, okay, this is going to be kind of banger after banger. And it was Starstruck. The Kinks, obviously some of the Kinks is played in Hot Fuzz as well. So I just love them in general. And then the best, when they play Eloise and you see Terrence Stamp and he's literally like, he's in the bar. It's one of my favorite moments in that movie. It's one of the best needle drops. And then obviously they end with the song Last Night in Soho, which I didn't even know was a real song. So
No,
my
neither.
mind was blown. And yeah, they have also the song that plays when Anya Taylor-Joy is dancing. It's just very atmospheric and really fits the time. But also the music is a character in its own as well, which I feel it's not like he picked the most popular songs of that era. It's kind of more kind of indie, lesser known songs of like the late 60s, which I feel gave kind of the movie a lot more character, and it added to kind of its kind of more indie style. So
The
yeah,
soundtrack is definitely my favorite thing about that movie. It's so well done.
I don't know if that's a slight, but I'll take
We'll
it
see.
nonetheless.
We'll
Jake.
see. But also, just want to shout out one of my other favorite Edgar Wright music moments in Shaun of the Dead, where they do White Lines with the zombie, and they're like do 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 do. Iconic.
Yes, the Brie Larson, the Black Sheep song is so good.
That was
Yes,
really
I
good.
agree. Yes, I forgot to bring that up. Was that an original song? Do you know? Or it wasn't.
I think it was, but I'm not like
Was it
100%.
nominated for best original song?
Well, why wasn't I'm So Sad, So Very, Very Sad by
Okay.
Crashing the Boys,
Love
the
the
7-second long song nominated for an Oscar? Disrespect.
Let's move on now to our next category: best supporting performance in Edgar Wright movie. I can start out with this one because I ended last time, so I want to make it fair. I went with Nick Frost and Hot Fuzz. Shocker.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think I might mention him later on for another category, but I think it's one of my favorite comedic performances of all time. It's up there with Zach Galifianakis in The Hangover is like one of my top 2 best comedic performances. I don't know. He just takes such ordinary lines and makes them so much funnier than they actually are. And like, I don't have anything deep to say about the character other than he's just kind of really hilarious. And he's just
not
there.
Judge Judy and Executioner.
Yes. And then when he's just like, yeah, motherfucker. He's just
Helma, have you ever fired your gun up in the air and gone R?
when he's you haven't seen Bad Boys 2. No.
Also, one of the great moments of physical comedic acting is when he runs off in the rain carrying the giant monkey
Yes.
jiggling. Like,
And I think he's also just really relatable as kind of a guy who watches, like, I feel like we all have those moments where we watch movies and we want our lives to be just like those movies. And so I think there's something inherently very just relatable about the character. And also he sells a lot of the emotional moments later on really well. So I think the character goes through a transition that is really
And
unexpected.
he
but
goes
also,
through something really
Yeah.
tragic with what happens with his, like the backstory with his mom and the way his father loses his mind. Like, actually, kind of a tragic character.
Yeah.
Also, screw
So-
them for the fake out death at the end.
Oh yeah,
The shot of
it's
his
catch up. All right, whoever wants to go next.
All right, I'll jump in, I guess. My Nick Frost performance is actually Shaun of the Dead. I think that's not my pick, but it was close to being it. But you talking about it made me think, shit, maybe is it Hot Fuzz? I don't know, but Ed is a really iconic character to me as well. But for my pick, I'm going with Timothy Dalton in Hot Fuzz.
Yes,
I figured you'd appreciate that one.
let's
Helena.
go.
I saw this question, I was like, that's really hard. But then I'm looking through them and I'm like,
That was my runner-up.
it's Timothy Dalton. That dude is one of my favorite movie villains of all time. And I think maybe as a kid, I was like, I don't know, this guy's kind of weird and cheesy, annoying. And every single time I watch that movie, I love his performance more and more. And it's just such a perfect weaponization of his persona. I haven't seen any of his Bond movies, but I know they're meant to be some of the more serious ones, I think, from what I've been told by my friends who love Bond. But he is just, he's perfect in this. I'm a slasher of prices. He's so he's so obviously evil, but he manages to pull it off, and the way he just keeps getting one step ahead of Nick Angel and stuff. It's so funny to watch, and he's just an absolute joy in that movie.
I agree. That was, like I said, my runner-up. So I really appreciate the love there, Jacob.
Also, just that shot where he's got the frame picture of him in the background. And
I was gonna mention. I was literally pulling that up. I was stalling so I could pull it up.
You got it. Bring it up. Bring it up. Sorry.
It's one of the best shots ever.
Yes.
So good.
Dude, that's so much like the IT crowd also, where they will throw those up.
With like denim Renham. And
yeah.
Oh my god, damn it! I was gonna pull that up. Whatever. Holmes, you can go next.
Sorry, Helma. I was like, I got to mention this before we move on.
It was the first, one of those shots. Like, even as a kid, I was like, that is a phenomenal moment. And as an adult now, I'm like, okay, that shot is just very well done overall.
Yeah. Oh my god. I need to rewatch Hot Fuzz. But I'm gonna go with you guys got the comedy covered. You got Hot Fuzz covered. So I'm gonna go for a little bit more like dramatic kind of picks, at least. Okay, wait. I don't know. This one's hard. I was thinking about a lot. I have like 3 actors here. Wait, first of all, would you consider like Anya Taylor-Joy in Last Night supporting?
Yeah.
Or lead?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well,
she was probably my third, actually. She's really good in that movie.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought she was incredible in that movie. Also, I like John Hamm in Baby Driver. I just feel like he really hams it up. Sorry.
It's his best.
Honorable mention, Kevin
But-
Spacey in Baby Driver.
Oh, no.
I was just blinded by the balls on that kid.
Oh, my God. And I actually also like Mary Elizabeth Winstead in Scott Pilgrim, which I just rewatched last night. Because I feel like, okay, I really don't like Michael Cera, and I really don't like him in that movie. And I think Mary Elizabeth Winstead kind of balances it out, like, makes up for his, like, I just don't. He doesn't deserve her. I don't understand that movie at all in terms of his character.
Ramona Flowers has ruined a generation of men, I think.
It has, yeah.
I don't get how all these girls are fawning over Michael Cera. Like, he's like,
Hey,
there are
don't question
several
it.
movies.
Don't question it.
No, I love Michael Cera, but it's weird. There are several movies where this happens. Like Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist. Every girl wants to bang him. It makes no sense, but I like him.
He's not. I don't think he's a charismatic guy, and especially his character written that way. Sorry, this is kind of going off on a tangent, but just his character's kind of an asshole, just like a douchebag. He's not very. I don't get it. I don't know. Anyway,
I think he's meant to be, but yeah, it's still a bit weird. All right, who we going with?
I know, but oh man, I can't decide between these 3, but maybe I'll just say John Hamm because I love John Hamm in Mad Men. But I think he's good in. I know that not a great justification, but I think he's good in Baby Driver. He really like brings that menace and brings like the just ups the ante and just like super intense, almost like a Nicolas Cage kind of like fury. towards the end of that movie. Just that I just still remember in my mind that shot of with the red light, that Edgar Wright uses. Like I think with the broken cop car, right? That's just kind of imprinted in my mind, and I
you
just
kind of
remember-
empathize with him too, a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah.
Like he's
You
a
get where he's
somewhat
coming
understandable villain.
Yeah, and I just certainly would not want to end up on the other side of that guy. So
It's
maybe
also
an
I think it's
unconventional pick, but
sorry. I think by far my favorite John Hamm performance, like from a
Yeah, I
cinematic
think-
point of view,
yeah,
because he always gets. I think Holmes, we've talked about this, that the fact that he gets
Yeah.
typecast all the time and he hasn't fully been able to make that jump.
he really has
He's
not.
like
It's so
always the
annoying.
FBI agent in every fucking
Yeah.
movie. It's so
And he doesn't get
annoying.
anything to do. Finally, he has something to
Yeah.
do in this movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's because Mad Men, he's so good. Like that's one of the
Yeah.
best performances ever in anything, and ever since then he hasn't had much. So I just want to shout out a good John Hamm, role when I see it. So yeah, that's my pick.
Chris, we're gonna end with you.
All right. Nothing mentioned in the last 5 minutes is better than Smashy Smashy Eggman.
One of my favorite Edgar Wright lines.
Andy Knightley, Nick Frost from
I
The
love
World's
you.
End.
Wow.
I love
This-
that.
Because in all the other movies, Nick Frost he's more stunted. He's more of the bumbling. He matches Simon Pegg's Arrested Development character, but in this one, he's the responsible one, and he's so serious, and he's buttoned down until he gets to a point, and then it's all hell breaks loose, and he's like, "F it, I'm just going," and that's when he just goes ham on everybody. And I mean, some of his lines that he gets to deliver, just I love that.
Dude,
image.
as someone who grew up in a shitty small town, the amount of catharsis I felt when he gets drunk and is about to fight and screams, "I fucking hate this town!" So good.
Well, and then you move into that phenomenal one shot, where it's just bouncing around the room. It's so good. But yeah, he's as that. I don't know. There's something about it where it's somebody who's been repressing himself, or maybe wanted to be the person that he is now, but then has also been struggling a little bit internally with what he could be, or what he maybe just letting loose. No, I do this. This is what I do. I'm responsible. And then reaches that breaking point, and it's like, nope. Okay, here we go. And yeah, so
He's also got that conflict of dealing with this friend that he does love, but is also like just such a mess, and he doesn't know how to deal with him, or if he can keep dealing with him. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and that conversation that they finally have, because they're hinting around the rift, something about it, and then you find out about the accident and what happened and why there's really just this, the crux of that rift was, and it's heartbreaking at one point, and
I love that. We've all got a different iconic Nick Frost character. That's great.
We move on now to our next category. As I remember, Kate Blanchett was also in Hot Fuzz. I just remember that now randomly.
I did bring that up. Don't worry.
Best Wright cinematography.
This was a really hard one.
Holmes, we'll start with you first.
I'm happy to finally have a time to talk about Last Night in Soho, which I feel like, okay, it's sort of an obvious pick because it is very flashy cinematography, and like we said earlier, it's on the neon, and but what can I say? I love that stuff. I don't know. It's just like perfectly captures the vibe, and I don't know. I mean, I guess it's like all of his movies are super well shot, and I think it's speaks very highly of him because he does so many comedies, and usually comedies they kind of like phone it in, right? They're like, it's a comedy, we just gotta like show everything, and I feel like he usually does put a lot of effort into his films. So I feel also sort of bad picking the one movie that's like not a comedy for this. But I just think in The Last Night in Soho, it really shows off like, all of the Giallo influences, right? And like, it just has this perfect like atmosphere. Like you said with the soundtrack, right? I think the soundtrack is perfectly conjures up that kind of feeling that the movie's going for, that vibe. And the same thing with the cinematography. It just makes you feel like you're there in those like, back streets and those like, I don't know, shady characters and seedy dive bars, all this stuff. Yeah, the cinematography is and also just like gorgeous to look at. So yeah, I got to go with Last Night in Soho.
can piggyback off that because once again, me and Holmes agree. I love Last Night in Soho, and I particularly love the cinematography. It's very different from his other movies, which I think is a good thing because it shows how he's able to kind of change his vision based on what the movie is. And like Holmes mentioned, the Giallo kind of inspirations, but also with an Edgar Wright twist. I also think the way he shoots everything, like he shoots stuff differently based on where it is. For example, if it's in the present time, he'll shoot it differently than, for example, if it's back in time in the 60s, whether it's a dive bar, whether it's kind of a dance floor, whatever it is. It has a distinct style as to how he's going to shoot that scene. Like, obviously, I think we've all seen the behind the scenes of how he shot the scene of when Matt Smith is dancing with Anya Taylor-Joy and Thomas Mackenzie, and they're like both like in the scene, and like when one's dancing with Matt Smith, and then you see other, and the way he shot that behind the scenes is crazy. And just the way he, like, it's a horror movie, obviously. But the way he kind of separates Last Night, like the movie, from how kind of other movies are shot as well. I don't know. It's also just a very colorful movie as well. I think, I just think it's really just a pleasure to watch overall. So Last Night in Soho.
All right, I'll jump in. I've got the Last Night in Soho lighting here, but I'm not picking it. I was between this question was as tough as Cast for me. These were the two toughest questions, I think. Soho, I think, has the best lighting. Baby Driver, I think, has the best blocking and movement and choreography. But I'm going with Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I think it just it blends in a bit of everything and so many of his influences. And I know a lot of the look of that film comes from the visual effects, but it also is it's doing something new in every scene. It's pulling from martial arts. It's pulling from like fantasy movies and sci-fi, and to create its own original thing. And it's also a really cozy in the romance scenes, like the coldness when they're sitting on the swing in the ice. The way they use the doors in the subspace highways. I just love the look of this movie. It's so fun. It's different every time, and every scene is designed to just do the most. So it's maybe not the most refined like Soho probably is, but when I think of visuals, Scott Pilgrim is the film that sticks out the most for me, and it's a film that really made me, as a kid, think differently about how movies could look and be made.
And Chris, which team are you going to be on? Are you going to pick something out of left field?
I would love to. This was hard for me, but I did end up on Last Night in Soho also. Just from like what you talked about, like the dance scene and the movement of the camera and how it just captures that. Also, just with Thomas and Mackenzie walking down the stairs into the club, and Anya Taylor-Joy mimicking that, and how he captures that, and just you feel this flowingness to it, and you begin to feel the energy of the club, but also this intrigue, mysteriousness, and slightly unsettling, because we're feeling the discombobulation that Thomas and Mackenzie is feeling also. I could choose almost any of them. I mean, but no, Last Night in Soho, I'm gonna stick with that one.
All right, let's move on now to our next. We're gonna go
The Lone
to
Wolf?
best right character. Jacob, we'll start with you first.
The answer is Gary King from The World's End. Done. I think that is such an underrated film. It is I think it's the most unfairly maligned of the Cornetto trilogy, and it's actually, I think, probably my second favorite Edgar Wright film. I just adore it, and so much of that comes from that Gary King character. And while maybe I like Hot Fuzz better as a movie, I mean, it's just it has so much depth, and it's really an opportunity for Simon Pegg to do the best acting of his career that he rarely gets the opportunity to do. And it's something that I was able to relate to a lot as well. I'm not an alcoholic, but as I get older, you do kind of feel yourself drifting away from your friends to the point where, do they need me anymore? Like, what am I for? And you feel like you're just dragging them down. There's so much to this character. He's so funny. It's such a different look for Simon Pegg. I've never seen him look like that in a film before, and just he makes me cry in that movie, man. Like the ending when he reveals that he's been self-harming and stuff. They told me when to go to bed. Like it's it's about as real as any Edgar Wright film has gotten for me, and I absolutely love Gary King.
Whenever I think of that character, he always reminds me of Carl Urban in The Boys.
Why?
I have to, maybe I have to see the movie again, but the look and I don't know.
I can't give you that one.
Okay, but it's just me. Chris, let's go to you.
All right, I'm going Danny Butterman from Hot Fuzz.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, just I mean, so many of the lines, so many, just the bumbling that he is and the innocence I think that he has in this movie. You know, he desires to be such the good policeman officer, and but he's failing. You know, I mean, he's trying to live up to his dad's expectations. He's also then now challenged by Nicholas Angel, and we get to see this really big progression in him. And then Jacob, I think you mentioned like just the devastation that he goes through of the tragedy of his mom, but now his dad too. I mean, his whole world has been a lie, and he has to reconcile that and work through that. And yeah,
and just the way he uses his love of like action movies and stuff to sort of cope with that. Like, I'm sure there's some personal stuff in there from Edgar Wright.
Yeah,
great character.
Yeah, I went with the same thing, and Chris said it really well, so now I have nothing to say. So yeah,
yeah, that happens.
Danny Butterman, let's go. Also, I just like him in a cowboy hat. So here's a picture of Danny Butterman in a cowboy hat.
I love that they put one that's too small on him. You know what I mean?
So
let's go to Holmes.
I mean, I got to say the same thing. I like what you were saying earlier, Homer, just about like the relatability of him. He just a dude who likes movies, also, and yeah. I mean, you put it too well, Chris. I can't follow that up. And I also just like very funny. I mean, It's really hard to pick this because I feel like so many of his characters are so funny.
Yeah.
But there's just something about, I don't know. Nick Frost is incredible.
How am I the only one who didn't pick a Hot Fuzz thing here?
You went with the drama. You went with the dramatic connection. We went with.
Well, it's not that dramatic. His character's like the first half of the movie. He's just being an absolute menace and cracking jokes the whole time. I did two of them at once. I don't remember. I do a bit. I was drunk. It was like creepy because it was like there was four of them.
Also, sorry. I'll mention it later actually. But we're gonna move on now to worst Wright movie, where the group disbands and we end the show early because everyone's mad at each other. So,
Alex, I feel like you're going to say Scott Pilgrim and I'm going to be upset with you.
All right. So my worst Edgar Wright movie. This is hard because I will say, so out of the 6 movies, right? Because there's 6 movies available for this entire show.
Oh, and I've seen Sparks Brothers, his documentary.
That does not count. We're not counting 2.5
Sparks
hour
Brothers
documentaries.
is fantastic.
It
really
is good.
So good.
All right,
they might be my favorite band.
My pick.
I hadn't heard of them before, but now I want to listen to their music, and I did. They're great.
I'm still going between a couple in my head. Honestly,
choose carefully.
I know I don't want to offend anybody. I like these movies, right? I just don't love them, right? So I'm sorry. I gotta go World's End. I'm so sorry, Jacob. I'm so sorry. This comes right after your whole thing about Gary King.
Your pick.
No,
you need to watch it again and again because it gets funnier every time.
I know, but I also feel like Jacob has an answer prepared that's going to hurt me too, so it's all good. Yeah, I think it's fine. I think the concept is great, but I don't think the movie fully lives up to that. I think the cast is a bit more memorable in other Wright movies, aka one Hot Fuzz and one Shaun of the Dead. But I like it. I like it a lot. I think it's a really good movie. I think there's a lot of interesting concepts. Pierce Brosnan is also in it. We mentioned one Bond actor. Here's another. Rosamund Pike's good as well. And I think the ending is great with the alien voice. What is it? He says "fuck off" or something like that.
Such a depressing ending too.
It is.
Just.
And I think it's like a really good like Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Like if Edgar Wright directed that movie.
A great love letter to our own idiocy as a species.
I think. Again, I have to rewatch it, but I do think the Simon Pegg character is too unlikable at times, maybe for me. as Jacob like
Hmm.
wants to kill me.
Hey, no. That's why I love him. Like I've known
Okay,
people
yeah.
like him in my life, which is why I sort of have empathy for that side of him.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's
Um,
destructive, but also like, you know, there's a reason for it and he doesn't mean to be destructive.
Yeah. So I like it. It's a good movie, by far positive, but I think it also just goes to how good Edgar Wright is, because his worst movie, in my opinion, is still like a really good movie. So, yeah, we'll go to Holmes now.
Yeah, I think all of his movies are good. Like I wouldn't rate any of them, below like 6 or 7 out of 10, right?
Mhm.
And I think for this one, I'm going with a bit of recency bias because I just rewatched it last night, and I'm going to anger some people, I think, but I'm going to go Scott Pilgrim versus the World because I remember really liking it when I first watched it on I remember I watched it on a computer in an airport when I was much younger, and I loved it. It was great, and I watched it last night, and I was like, it's not that good. I don't know. I didn't. Okay, first of all, I have my Michael Cera problem that I've already talked about. And I think it really does drag the movie down. I think you have a different actor.
If you hate
It
him,
might
I
be
can
better.
understand why that it would be a tough movie.
He's like, there are very few actors I don't like, but I just can't get behind Michael Cera. I don't know. And then, I know, and I know you said like his character is supposed to be an asshole. He is supposed to go on this journey, right? Of like he's narcissistic, and then he discovers, and he also discovers like self-respect and all this stuff. But I feel like I didn't really buy the journey. Like I didn't see the steps in the journey. I only saw the beginning and the end. I don't know. It just didn't feel like a very good arc to me. And then also just like the succession of each each fight, it just felt very just like formulaic. Like, okay, now we're going to the next one. It's just kind of getting a little tiresome. Those are my complaints. But it is incredible visual effects. The fights are really good. They're really well done. The cast is great. There's a lot of funny stuff in there. I mean, it's not a bad movie. I just didn't really like it as much as any of his others, I would say. Honestly, yeah, if Michael Cera wasn't in it, I don't know.
No, those are all good points, honestly. Like they don't register as issues for me, but they are like valid criticisms, I think.
Thanks, yeah.
But
I mean, I still enjoy it. I think it's an enjoyable movie. It does have a great soundtrack. It's got a lot of stuff going for it. I just gotta say I like all the elements more. Yeah, including the Sparks Brothers, which is great.
If you guys haven't seen the Sparks Brothers, it is one of my favorite documentaries in recent years. It's so entertaining and so purely in the spirit of who that band is.
All right, Chris.
I hate this question. I would just like you to know this is worse than the cast, because you're making me choose from something that I love. I think my argument is going to be terrible and very weak, and I will stand by that it is terrible and weak. Last Night in Soho, only because I have seen that one the least. Not because I like it the least. I think it was the departure to go into thriller horror territory was amazing. The characterizations, the acting, the editing within that is all phenomenal. And I had to choose something, and I was not allowed to choose Dead Right, his first film from 1993, which is available on YouTube, and it is terrible. So there you go. Hate me all you want. I didn't like to choose this one.
All right. Before Jacob goes, we're going to end the show early. So, all right, Jacob, take it away.
Helma, I would say you've probably done this to yourself by saying we're not allowed to count a fistful of fingers. I might be the only person at the table who dislikes an Edgar Wright movie, but I do not like Last Night in Soho. This is a guy I worship, but that film was a crushing disappointment for me. I don't hate it. The first time I watched it, I kind of liked it, but I had some issues, and then I went and rewatched it, and it didn't really work for me. And I totally get why people love it. My best friend loves it. The guy I grew up bonding over Edgar Wright with, so we've had many an argument over this. But I think it does a good impression of a lot of movies, but it doesn't really. I think it's right kind of missing the point of what he's homaging at times. He's never, one of the main criticisms of Wright is he's never been good at writing female characters, and that's something even I agree with to an extent. I think this one's him trying to make his look at me, I'm a feminist movie, but it doesn't really work. He's trying to make this exploitation giallo film, but then he's trying to tell a feminist story too, and it doesn't really come together because the themes are kind of at odds with what he's trying to do. Like the direction he takes the Sandy character, I think, is just kind of shitty and gross, and it kind of just frames her as a crazy person. I also think as a horror movie, the scares are really, really repetitive. Much of the climactic third act is just these like ghost people and stuff, and it just the visual effects come off really fake looking and too CGI heavy for me. Great cinematography, great lighting, fantastic performances from Thomasin McKenzie and Anya Taylor-Joy. As you said, the soundtrack is amazing. It's absolutely not a write-off, but I think after the halfway point, I kind of just tuned out for it, and I think it's maybe him biting off a little more than he can chew at times. So it pains me to say all that, but that's the one for me.
And I just had a heart attack.
Sorry, Homer.
I do will say I love the Thomasin McKenzie protagonist. I love her specifically.
Oh yeah, I found stuff to relate to in that.
Yeah, that's
too.
what I found her really relatable for me at least. And I might like want to be, and I understand the criticism because when the movie came out, was it 2022? I think was it last
21 even.
I can't remember. But I remember because we knew each other then, so I think I remember your reaction to the movie when it came out and everything. It was very divisive, specifically the ending where a lot of people were very divided over it.
Yeah,
but I actually really liked the ending. I thought the twist I liked, and everybody was like, "Oh, it's silly." I liked it, and as a Diana Rigg fan, I thought it was really
when the ending first happened, I was convinced it was a dream sequence because it was so corny.
I liked it. I was like, "Oh, and she's been hiding the dead bodies under the floorboards." That's like even crazier.
Yeah.
But I love the Thomasin McKenzie because I did relate to her a lot. I remember like what I wrote in my review. It's like the isolation she feels because of connection to the past. I felt it was just as a lover of classic movies specifically, it really spoke to me, especially because it was in 2021. So that was my first or second semester in college. So it like just came out at the right time for me. But that's just me. I totally understand where you're coming from as well. And Chris as well.
Likewise.
And Chris as well, despite the fact that he's
that's
only
the beauty
it
of it. Hey, he still likes it at least.
Yeah, he does.
Just like a default person. I wish I liked it. I'll come back to it a third time at some point because I did enjoy it like as a surface level fun factor the first time. But I would really like to see him come back to comedy, I think.
Yeah, let's move on now to our next. We're going to talk about best lead performance in a Wright movie. I can go first on this one. So my favorite lead performance is another. I've talked about this movie a lot. I'm just going to keep talking about it. Simon Pegg in Hot Fuzz. It's my favorite Simon Pegg performance. He is very kind of stone-faced throughout the entire thing, but I feel like there's enough there's enough personality there to keep me invested. He also goes through kind of a development throughout the film where you don't really think he's going to fall in love with this small town and the people he's with as much as he does. And I also just think the type of comedy he gives off is very different from everyone else in the movie. But I think he does a good job of kind of selling it. So I don't know. That's a really bad explanation, but Simon Pegg. It's very hard to describe his performance because it's very much very simple. So I had to kind of, and I can't think of all.
And it's very subtle. Like it's very he's doing a lot of stuff, and he's doing a lot to mimic like the action heroes that he's paying homage to. And it is fantastic the way he slowly embraces the way he slowly embraces the image, going from being very I'll have a cranberry juice, thank you, to spouting one-liners in the climax. Like it's a very fun, subtle development.
Throughout the movie, he's very insistent, obviously, on a lot of this shit happening, and obviously we see it happening, right? So we're with him the entire time. So the fact that we're rooting for him, we're in his shoes the entire time, and we're on his side throughout the entire thing is a testament, I think, to how good his character is. And how good
Leslie Tiller was fucking murdered.
Let's go to Chris next.
Okay, another Simon Pegg performance. For me, it's Shaun from Shaun of the Dead.
Yeah.
Because he has such a transition within this film of slacker, of just like kind of going through the motions, to then standing up and becoming a leader first reluctantly, and then because he just has to, and he then embraces that, and you watch him sacrifice his safety for his family and his friends. And when they get to the bar, and he chases everybody away from the Winchester, his love for Ed also is such a great friendship in that, to watch those two interact, and him knowing that Ed is really, like, everything Pete says is kind of true, that he's dragging him down, that Ed's going nowhere, all of these things, and yet he won't give him up. He believes in him. He wants to, and then even to the final scene, he's never given up on his friend. And yeah, I love
One
it.
of the all-time great cinematic slackers.
Yeah.
Jacob? Oh, sorry.
Okay, yeah, I will go. Well, I'm going to go with Simon Pegg in The World's End,
Yes.
which is probably not a surprise. And we're all going the different Simon Pegg characters. Again, Hot Fuzz, favorite movie. Nicholas Angel is just a true hero to me. But yeah, he's the whole package in The World's End for me. He nails the action, like the scene where he's fighting and trying not to spill his beer. Just brilliant physical comedy. Yeah, so unhinged, so painful. So everything I said about the Gary King character comes entirely because of Pegg's performance. And Pegg himself says all the time that it's his favorite character he ever played, and he got to exercise so many of his own demons with it because he's been open about his own struggles with alcoholism and depression and stuff. So yeah, I can tell it's a really personal thing for him. I can tell he really wants to work with Edgar Wright again too. So please, Edgar Wright, please make it happen. Oh my God, we need these, not just in an acting capacity, but I think from a writing capacity, I think Pegg complements what Wright does super well. That's a tangent, but I need this. It's been 10 years since The World's End. I need that. Give me some juice, man.
Yes.
Holmes?
All right, well, you guys picked all the Simon Pegg performances. There's no more. But I think I'm going to go with, Helmer, you'll be happy. I'm giving some love to Last Night in Soho. I think Thomas Mackenzie.
Let's go.
Would pick.
She's up there for me, honestly. She's really good.
He's like two.
She's really good, and he does have he doesn't have great female characters usually, but I feel like in this one she is pretty. I think her performance elevates, and I don't know. I'm just kind of happy because I feel like I'm like an OG stan because I saw her in Leave No Trace in theaters before she was in Jojo Rabbit. No one knew who she was. So, and I was like, oh, she's really good in this. I love that movie. Yeah. So yeah, I love Thomas Mackenzie, and it's great to see her in a horror movie. I don't know, and I think it's not like a typical. Oh, sorry, there's motorcycle.
Jesus.
I love it outside, Alex Holmes. It's always so chaotic.
It's the Wild West out here, You never know what's gonna happen. A surprise around every corner. Who went around his motorcycle, he drove up and down.
The fact that we didn't hear it
20 times.
My man's living in a whole
Alex
Grand Theft Auto server.
Alex Holmes clicking the mute button has been the most attentive work he's ever done.
Wait, you guys didn't hear that?
No,
I heard it.
This first, yeah, this last.
Anyway,
I'm still hearing something.
Okay, wait, what was I saying? Oh no,
Thomas Mackenzie.
Yeah. She's great, amazing. I think, oh yeah, it's a horror performance that just feels almost like a dramatic one. I feel like it's not a typical, kind of scream queen kind of thing. I feel like, I don't know, her behavior feels really authentic and real, and just like Helmer said, very relatable as well. And yeah, I don't know, I just really like her character. I feel like she has a lot of dramatic depth to her. And yeah, Thomas Mackenzie is great. I also need to rewatch it, and maybe if I rewatch it, I won't like it as much. I don't know, but from what I remember, I really like her character.
Do you remember the? Sorry for the quick tangent. Do you remember, Jacob might remember the Jocasta character from
Yes.
Last Night?
Oh,
Wait,
I'd like to throw her down a flight of stairs.
Is that the friend or something?
No,
She's
I
like
wish
the
she was the
bully
friend.
one.
She's the worst.
She's the which one?
I hate. She's
When she first moves into the school, she's bullying her and stuff.
Like I don't think it's a
yeah,
perfect
yeah.
movie.
She-
And that
doesn't she,
character's
like,
just
stab
so
her?
oh my god.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Something
I forget,
annoying.
that was
She's just so
yeah.
just like weird, like randomly annoying.
I just remember it because Jocasta's like the dumbest fucking name.
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
ever
me too.
heard.
The fact that
Yeah,
we
yeah.
remember. All right, guys, we're gonna move on to our last category now. We've been waiting all day for this best right picture. I mean, one of us may have spoiled it at the beginning.
I think
of
I'll
the
go
show.
first.
But yeah, we'll go.
because it's not.
Damn it! If you go first, I won't have anything to say, Jacob. Can I go first?
Oh no, I'm not going to say much. Really.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Because I said I brought it up at the start because I think it just is. That's so key to my relationship with Wright, and it is such a special film to me, and it's one where like you could say, yeah, sure, it's not objectively the greatest film ever made, but I believe in subjectivity, and I believe films are special to you for when they hit you in your life and just what they feel to you. And Hot Fuzz made me understand new things about cinema, and it's a film that 100 watches on, I'm still discovering new things every time, and it's one of the films that made me want to be a filmmaker. I was making dumb little comedy sketches as a little kid ripping off Edgar Wright because of Hot Fuzz, and it's a very, very deeply special movie to me, the most special movie to me. Helma, over to you.
Yeah, that was solid. I won't have anything else to say because I feel like we've kind of gone over Hot Fuzz throughout this entire show, so I don't have too much other to say. That I don't know, when you take a movie like this, when you read, if you haven't seen it, if you just read a plot synopsis and then I tell you it's one of my favorite movies of all time, you're gonna say what are you talking about? It just is like a dumb action movie like Bad Boys, blah blah blah, like something like that. But yeah, just when you watch it, it has this kind of, I don't know, this authenticity, this personality, this distinct sense of self that I don't think any other action movie has. And I feel like it goes beyond kind of the realm of action. It just becomes kind of a fun hangout movie with a murder mystery, with a bunch of cool action scenes, with kind of a lot of dramatic elements. So it's so many things kind of mixed in. Like we mentioned, the cast is wonderful, the laughs, and again, it's the type of comedy that it's not like every line is trying to make you laugh. I feel like it's the type of movie that lends itself to rewatches because every time you watch it, like Jacob says, you'll find something new about the movie that you didn't find out before, or you laugh at a line that you didn't laugh at before because you realize something about it.
Pretty much every single line in that movie is either a joke, a setup for a future joke, or a callback to a previous joke. It is brilliant.
Exactly. The callbacks are amazing. Also, the world building, the fact that the irony of being in such a small world but creating such a big one, just and I'm not even trying to do it. Just by virtue of having so many fun characters and such a fun setting, and I think just soundtrack great, editing is great, acting is great. It's a perfect movie in my opinion, and it's just one of the most fun movies I've ever seen. So Hot Fuzz.
Yeah, and I just want to say I love that you have this. Ever since we've met, I've loved that you have this appreciation of Hot Fuzz too, because I do. A lot of people I've known, I feel like Americans don't always appreciate Edgar Wright's stuff as much as maybe we do and the British do. So, and to you as well, like, yeah, seriously, I love that you got, like, this is a safe space right here.
For sure. We'll go to Holmes next. We'll save our special guest to last. But Holmes is very special, so.
Yeah.
That's
He's like, yeah, don't patronize me, Helma.
That's the problem with me. I'm so sarcastic that as soon as I say something authentic, it's like, shut the fuck up.
What do you got for us, brother?
I mean, okay, I want to say it's probably Hot Fuzz, but I just want to say there's also in contention is Baby Driver. I really do like Baby Driver, and I think just the music adds something special that Hot Fuzz doesn't have, but Hot Fuzz does have the comedy that I don't think Baby Driver has. And I think, Jacob, I kind of agree. I think he, in terms of, like you said, you want him to go back to comedy, and I think that's where that's his bread and butter, because his timing, the editing, that's where he thrives in the comedy. And yeah, Hot Fuzz, it's got to be Hot Fuzz. I mean, it's just so, yeah, like you said, like there's not a moment wasted, I feel like, and that's That's just you guys put it better than I.
Probably.
I mean, we stole all the things to say. You're lagging a bit.
Okay.
I think we did put
Yeah,
it better
my bad.
because we could hear it. But I think I got the sense of what you were saying.
You got the gist. I don't know. I didn't really say much, so.
Also, we
Yeah,
didn't get to
Hot Fuzz
talk about
good.
Baby Driver much, and that is like a really fantastic movie as well.
Yeah, I loved it.
I think I saw it like 6 times in theaters.
And then Chris, you chose Edgar Wright. This is your moment. What is your favorite Edgar Wright movie?
Shaun of the Dead.
Nice.
The social commentary that is woven throughout this movie is just spectacular. I mean, talking about, the entire world, at least Sean's world that we get to see, they're just moving through life. Everybody's a zombie before they even become a zombie. We see them, the people, the skateboarders and just the hoodies just kind of walking through the street, see the people on the bus. Everybody is literally just going through the motions. They're basically existing without any type of motivation or life. And to then watch those scenes repeated, but now they're actually dead, and it goes into, even Simon Pegg, the obliviousness that he has lived his life in for so long, which has caused the relationship issues, which has caused just the strains in his life, or caused him to go really nowhere, where he just he's existing also. I mean, he goes into the corner shop and, slips on the blood. One of the the greatest sight gags there, because he, and he closes the thing and you see the bloody hand on the freezer door there, and doesn't even see it, and I owe you some change. And then away he goes. The going back to the beginning, when he first goes to the shop, the first time he goes to the shop, and he, what does he say to the kid with the ball? He's like, hey, you're going to kill somebody, or you're dead, something like that. It's always this foreshadowing that is going through the movie. To watch his growth, like I said before, just I love that Sean grows up in this. He's still, it's not like he becomes all of a sudden this person who's a uber successful type of person or anything else. He's not striving for that. And he also has Liz kind of settle down a little bit, or relax a little bit too. And so that mixture of them works really well. The story of friendship, survival, and you just watch the devastation happen, and the conversations that continue on through there. That, gosh, his mom dying, and yeah.
I think he's a success. Isn't everyone's dream to have a nice girlfriend and a pet zombie locked in your garage?
Right? What are we gonna do today? Head down to the pub, a little dinner, come
Player
back.
2 has entered the game.
Ed.
We haven't talked too much about Shaun of the Dead this episode, I feel like. So, Chris, thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah,
so
like
I had to
every
rewatch
great
it.
zombie movie, like the social commentary, like he's really following the footsteps of like Romero and all those greats. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also love the little visual gag where he's like, how many are there? Slowly climbs the children's ladder, climbs back down. Lots!
I'll do it on the day. It is the day.
Who made you fucking king of the zombies?
Yes. I don't know his name. The dude with the glasses in that movie.
Oh, Dylan
Oh my-
Moran.
I know so many people
Such
like
a
that,
hateable character.
and I love that character for just being so, like, I don't know.
Watch,
Dude,
It's unlike-
letting
watch
yourself
Black
get
Books.
ripped. Yeah. No,
Sorry,
letting
what
yourself
were you-
get ripped apart by zombies rather than admitting that you're in love with your roommate. Yep, same, brother.
All right, guys, that's gonna end it. Before we end, I have just one more question to pose to you all, because Edgar Wright hasn't announced what his next movie is, and I just looked on Instagram, and no, I'm just kidding. Yeah, he still hasn't. But we talked a bit about what we want his next movie to be. What do we think it will be, and kind of you can also weave in kind of also what you want it to be as well. Anybody?
Gosh, I mean, he's always attached to so many different projects that end up falling through. I know he was meant to adapt this Neil Gaiman story, but I don't know if that's still happening. I hope it's something original at least. Like, for all my issues with Last Night in Soho, it's still an original film that's bringing that style to people. And I took a lot of my friends to it who aren't cinephiles, and they had a real blast with it. And I think, that's when Edgar Wright's operating at his best. So every time I see him get attached to a big tentpole superhero movie, Ant-Man or something, there's a part of me that's like, I don't really want this. Like, get the bag, sure. But I'd just love to see him work with Simon Pegg again in any capacity, because I think they are one of my... And Frost, of course, as well. But just in terms of they write the movies together and stuff, just one of my favorite duos. And they're all such great friends in real life. And it's a real like dream come true success story of you making films with your friends in your backyard and eventually getting to the point where you can do that for a living.
Holmes, Chris?
I just looked at IMDb. He does have like 8 projects in development.
Sounds right.
He did, including Baby Driver 2, which
they all died.
Yeah, I know. Well, maybe like something like, I feel like you could do a sequel that's not the same character, but the same spirit. You know, just like the music, the fast car. I don't know. We'll see.
I heard he was producing The Running Man, Luke. I don't think.
Apparently, he's making a film called The Chain.
That's what Luke has right here.
Yep. Oh, The Running Man.
The Running Man would be fun to. I think that movie would be great to, like, as a remake. That would be really fun.
I feel like it would be cool to do like maybe like a comedy western, like throwback to his Fistful of Fingers. You know, come back now that he's an established director, and he can make something fun.
Yeah, because it's a full-on parody movie, and there are a lot of great. It's not executed so well, but there are a lot of very clever gags in that. The parody genre is kind of dead, but you know he homaged a different genre with every Cornetto movie, and there's still so much more he could do there.
All right, Luke. Well, we'll see if it actually happens. I don't think he's going to direct a Running Man remake, but you know, I mean, we'll see what happens. He hasn't directed any. Has he directed anything that's not original? Right? All of his movies are original.
I think so, yeah.
I doubt it.
I think The Chain is based on a novel, but that's good enough.
That still counts. That's original.
Yeah. I mean, they're all riffing on previous movies, but yeah.
And that's going to do it, folks, for our episode this month for the Director Showcase. This episode featuring the great Edgar Wright. Thank you, Chris, from Movies and Munchies, for joining.
Oh, you're lagging out on us, Elmo.
Everyone can find you.
He's just turned into a robot. He's turned into a smashy Eggman. Are you with us, Alex? We didn't hear a word of that, my brother, if you can hear me.
No.
Well, to fill the dead air, thanks for listening to this episode on Edgar Wright's films. Chris, thank you very much for joining us. I don't know how to host. I can't take on these duties. It was great to meet you in person. I've seen you before on the show and a fan of your stuff, and I'll definitely follow you. And I'd love to, love to have you back on at some point. And just from as soon as you said Edgar Wright's your favorite working filmmaker, I'm like, okay, this guy's cool. This guy gets it. I don't know if I can call him my favorite after Last Night in Soho, but fuck, he's a special dude, man. He's a special dude.
Yes, he is, most definitely.
Here he is.
Right now.
I did the sign-off stuff for you, man.
Yeah, he did it.
Chris, where can everyone find you? Jesus Christ.
On YouTube, Movies and Munchies. That's the best place to find me.
Have we lost him again?
I think we did.
Yeah.
He's listening intently, though. So.
Are you serious?
Oh no, he's back. He's back.
Am I back? I don't even know.
Yes. Yep. You are.
I'm thinking I'm back.
No, you're not back anymore.
I'm pretty sure now I'm back. Right?
Yep, you're good. Yep.
All right. Well,
we should have all.
You could just like gaslight him. Just like
Jacob, you can find Jacob at Jacob Watches Films. You can find Holmes at his letterbox AJK34. I memorized that. That's good.
That's right.
And we'll see you all soon next month for another fun director. Thank you to Chris from Movies and Munchies.
Thank you.
And yeah, we'll catch you all soon. Thank you again.
Watch the Sparks, brother.